Welcome back to another Explainer. All right, so today we are bringing some serious energy to a conversation that is just absolutely fascinating. We're unpacking a recent dialogue between two researchers from MIT, and they basically sat down to completely deconstruct and rebuild how we think about developing economies. And not just the economies, but the ambitious people inside them trying to figure out what success actually means. We're going to look at the massive difference between building a business just to get rich versus building an ecosystem that literally lifts up an entire society. So get ready, because this is going to fundamentally shift how you look at the modern business landscape. Let's dive right in.
And this brings us to a pretty profound question. It really sits at the very heart of today's Explainer. Are we building businesses to escape our economies or to save them? It's a huge conflict, right? Because on one hand, we've got this hyper-capitalist rat race, where the whole point is just to build something, sell it, and bolt for a mansion in California. But then on the other hand, there's this incredibly vital work of building resilient, local economies that solve real problems for real people. Keep that tension in the back of your mind as we go through this.
All right, Section 1, Startup Myths versus Innovation. So we often toss around the terms startup ecosystem and innovation ecosystem like they're the exact same thing, but they're absolutely not. Think about a typical startup ecosystem. The whole narrative there is totally obsessed with valuations, raising massive funding rounds, scaling at lightning speed, and then exiting to a major hub like Silicon Valley. But the MIT researchers point out a massive flaw here, especially for emerging markets. This pathway is honestly pretty extractive. It ends up pulling the very best minds and the most brilliant ideas completely out of developing economies. Now contrast that with a true innovation ecosystem. This is a much deeper, more rooted concept. The metrics for success aren't just about hitting a billion-dollar valuation. They're about shared prosperity. It's about solving local, systemic problems so that the wealth actually stays in the community.
And building that kind of true innovation ecosystem requires a totally different mindset. I mean, true innovation isn't just taking an existing AI model, slapping a slightly different user interface on it, and calling it a day to make a quick buck. No way. As the researchers discussed, real innovation means rising to a higher level of complexity to tackle incredibly stubborn, multi-layered local problems. We're talking about designing economically viable and politically sustainable solutions for things like air pollution or clean water access or energy shortages. That is the kind of problem solving that genuinely moves the needle for humanity.
Moving right along to Section 2, Rise of the Working Camels.
Okay, so forget the whole mythical billion-dollar unicorn startup for a second. What developing economies actually need are what we call working camels. I love this term. A working camel is a resilient, sustainable business. It might not be as glamorous or as rare or get as many headlines as a unicorn, but it does the hard, gritty work. It creates steady jobs, it survives super harsh economic droughts, and crucially, it reinvests its profits directly back into the local economy. Working camels are literally the backbone of a thriving society.
Which leads us to ask, do our economies actually need unicorns to thrive? It's a great rhetorical challenge to the standard Silicon Valley venture capital playbook. Because think about it. If a country pours all of its time, resources, and attention into hunting for that one-in-a-million tech anomaly, they are completely neglecting the thousands of working camels that could be providing real stability and shared wealth for the vast majority of people.
So how do we get more camels? That's Section 3, Building True Innovation Nodes.
To understand how these fertile environments form, the researchers bring in network theory, specifically referencing Professor Albert Laszlo Barabasi. You need some very specific ingredients to build a strong node in a network. These strong networks naturally gravitate around highly developed interconnected spots. Think of Kendall Square in Boston, right where MIT is. You need this dense concentration of human talent, capital that's actually accessible, robust academic institutions doing serious R&D, and just ridiculously high interconnectivity. It's that vibe where you can walk down the street to grab a coffee and literally bump into a venture capitalist or a brilliant engineer.
But how does a developing region build one of those nodes from scratch? Well, it boils down to reducing friction. Public policy should basically just focus on knocking down the barriers between the players. Step 1, make it super easy to register a business and have a patent system people actually trust. Step 2, simplify the tax code and cut out the heavy bureaucratic reporting. And Step 3, this is the fascinating one, build tolerant infrastructure. The researchers made this brilliant point that top talent wants to live in free, open environments. If a brilliant coder with purple hair feels entirely safe and accepted walking into a local bar on a Friday night, that city instantly has a massive competitive advantage when it comes to attracting the creative class. Culture is literally infrastructure.
Okay, shifting gears a bit to Section 4, Redefining Success and Happiness.
Because let's talk about the people building these companies. Research consistently shows that the correlation between your income and your happiness plateaus around a certain point. Let's say it's around $100,000. Now, up to that point, yes, money drastically improves your life because it takes away the sheer stress of survival. But earning $500,000 or $5 million, it honestly doesn't give you a proportional spike in your day-to-day happiness. If you treat money as the ultimate goal, it often just traps really ambitious people on this endless treadmill. It's a rat race with absolutely zero emotional payoff when you cross the finish line.
Actually, one of the MIT researchers shared this super grounded personal definition of happiness. He said, happiness is like baseline health. If I am not complaining, I am already happy. And he told this amazing story. He wrote this academic paper on carbon border adjustments, and some students actually took it and turned it into a real funded startup. Naturally, he was thrilled. But he pointed out that the intense, euphoric joy of that huge achievement lasted for exactly 35 minutes while he was walking to the gym. And then, boom, back to baseline. Because true happiness isn't this constant state of euphoria. It's just a stable, healthy baseline of having purpose and peace.
So how do we actually maintain that healthy baseline? Well, they bring up psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi's famous concept of flow. It's like a balancing act. If your expertise is way higher than the complexity of what you do every day, you're going to fall straight into boredom. On the flip side, if your daily tasks are way too complex for your current skill level, you hit fear and anxiety. True life satisfaction, that flow state, happens when you perfectly balance your constantly growing expertise with increasingly complex, meaningful challenges. You literally have to keep growing just to stay in that sweet spot of happiness.
Which brings us to our final point. Section 5. Changing our societal narratives.
To make all of this work, there's a critical shift we have to make as a society. We have got to stop respecting people who acquire their wealth through corruption or by just extracting value from everyone else simply because they have a big bank account, right? I mean, if someone's wealth comes from holding society back, they shouldn't be getting the seat of honor. Instead, we need to completely elevate the entrepreneurs who are building value-driven wealth. These are the creators solving real problems. Their financial success is just a byproduct of the fact that they're genuinely helping society. Those are the true role models we need to be analyzing, praising, and trying to copy.
Which leaves us with this final, powerful question to chew on today. If you treat life as an infinite game, are you playing just to acquire the most money before the clock runs out? Or are you playing to leave behind a significantly fairer, more resilient world for the next generation? Because here's the secret. When you optimize for leaving a fairer world, the innovation, the working camels, and even that baseline happiness, they all just naturally follow. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope this sparks some serious curiosity for you today, and I will definitely see you in the next one.